My name is Giovanni, and this is my hometown in California. For most of my schooling career, this is what the way to school looked like. Verdant, green crops, grass waving back and forth in the wind, clear blue skies, green foothills rolling in the backdrop. The tallest man-made buildings for miles are the water towers scattered around town. If dictionaries had images, this would be right next to Cowtown. However, these views may not be around forever. Behind the far-off hills, there are sinister forces marching towards town. At the same time, some of these forces have been in town for a long time, slowly building up. For instance, being a country town, there are plenty of cow farms, which together emit a lot of methane gas. Here, water runoff from a cow farm has the distinct smell of cow manure, suggesting that chemicals from the manure somehow made their way into the water. Who knows where the water goes, or if it reaches any other crops. As for the outside forces, the most prominent over the past few years have been the large California wildfires. While they have not directly reached the town yet, the fires have been getting increasingly closer every year. In 2018, the Paradise Fire covered the town in smoke for days, to the point that it was difficult to see more than 50 feet away clearly. School was still in session for my district, which displayed the lack of worry, care, and caution from those in power in the town. It was difficult to breathe, as every breath took in plenty of ash and smoke particles, and the school did not provide masks of any sort. Last summer, the many California wildfires had the same effect to a greater degree. I was out of town during the few days that it was really bad, but I could see the fires approaching in the foothills the night before I left. On the way back from my trip, and the following week, smoke followed heavily. Outdoor work continued, mine included, even though it was obviously dangerous to be outside, with the air quality by far surpassing 500 on the air quality index, where 0 is good and 301 to 500 is considered hazardous to breathe. Luke, how did the recent California wildfires affect your day-to-day life?
My day-to-day life was not very affected by it. Like I noticed signs of the fire, like some poor air quality. For a time, I could smell like a smoky smell outside, but other than that, it didn't really affect me too much. One day, it was indeed terrible, and I tried not to breathe as I walk outside. I'd have to do kind of like that whenever I went outside, so I don't inhale the toxic fumes into my lungs. And I thought I was gonna get lung cancer after that day because it was basically orange fog in the air. That's how bad it was. You could see the particles which you were breathing in.
Well, well, since I live in the Central Valley, a lot of the smoke came over from like where the wildfires came from, which I'm not exactly sure from where, but whenever like I would go outside, it'd be like very smoky. It would honestly hurt to like breathe a little bit, and like it limited my activity outside since I like to do like outdoor activities and play sports a lot. So like I couldn't really go like on bike rides or play tennis. And like it like the next for the couple of days that the smoke was in the air, like I would have like sometimes coughing or like irritation in my throat. And I feel like just about like I couldn't really be outside very much. That's just like about how much it affected me.
And do you feel like that will have a negative impact on your future health?
On my future health, um, I don't think it will have a long-term effect. I think it only had a short-term effect with like, like my symptoms, like maybe having a sore throat or coughing, like respiratory system, maybe something like that. But like, I don't think long-term because right now I'm like completely fine since like the air's cleared up by now.
Um, I would say on a daily, when driving to school or on the freeway, if it's cloudy or foggy or smoky, I always question it. Oh, is today just overcast? Or is it smoky? Is there a fire? You never know. Usually always is smoky, so.
What do you predict will be the trend in the future for wildfires? Do you think they'll be getting any better, worse?
In the future, I do think wildfires will be more common because of climate change. I think climate change is causing the air to to become drier in some areas, which would make fires uh, more prone to happen.
Most likely worse because we're not doing anything to prevent them at the moment.
Well, I think that they'll get better because, like, based off of past experiences, I think we can learn to take more precautions in like how to prevent wildfires and like stop them from spreading in that way. I think just because like I think we could just learn from this situation. I think we will probably like go down, decline in like wildfires overall.
How likely do you think it is that wildfires will reach our hometown in the next couple of years?
Um, I don't think it's very likely. Although I guess we were close enough to like experience the effects of it elsewhere. I do think that by the time it would be moving toward our town, people would be fighting it, and then it would be extinguished by then.
In the event that a wildfire does reach our community, do you think that we would be prepared to handle such a wildfire? And if
I don't
so,
think we're prepared to handle anything in our town. I don't know. I don't know the infrastructure of our town,
okay.
bro, to be honest.
No. I would say we're not prepared for anything really.
To be honest, I don't think my community would be prepared because I saw like wildfires that were actually pretty close to my town, and I didn't really see like much of the town like doing anything to stop it, and like the smoke just kept on getting worse within like the town, and no one really seemed to like bother about it. And like also my town's like really small, so I feel like they wouldn't be prepared compared to like bigger cities.
What do you think the fires represent for the world environment?
I think the fires represent climate change in the world's environment. And I think it represents how our planet is not doing too well. And the more common wildfires is a sign of that.
I think these wildfires represent like the increase in climate change, and like how our global climate just is gradually raising like every year, or because due to like the fires and the greenhouse gases.
How bad humans are impacting it and how we're not doing anything about it. And we're realizing it. We're seeing it. But are we doing anything? No.
What can we do to prevent disasters like what happened in Paradise in our town?
I think like maintaining dry lands, or like plants and stuff like that, like a landscape that's like really dry and more like susceptible to like wildfires that are easier to like catch on fire, like maintain those lands, maybe like take them out or grow them, and also put more funding into maybe the fire department.
I would say training the firefighters more, first responders better for like wildlife firefighter stuff. They have a controlled fire that burns down all the dead stuff and the living trees survive, and it helps prevent out of control fires. I don't know if that can happen in our area.
Because the thing is, our town doesn't really get wildfires. So how
Not
would we
at the
prevent
moment.
one from happening
In the future,
in the first
fires are going to be more common,
future?
like you were saying. So there is a chance that they
Yeah.
do reach our town at some point.
In the
So,
chance that it does
and
reach
the
your town,
chance, yeah.
we should have lots of water ready in our fire. Make sure our fire departments are juiced up with water, so they would be prepared to extinguish the fires. I mean, other than that, I don't think there's much you could do. Our city could do,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I do think it could be up to the individuals if they wish to choose to be more eco-friendly, you know, ride bikes instead of cars to help the air, things like
Uh,
that.
Speaking of individuals, are you doing anything in your personal life to prevent wildfires from spreading?
I try to walk or take transit everywhere as opposed to driving everywhere.
I haven't really done much, but like I think one small thing would be like taking responsibility of myself and like throwing out like maybe flammable objects like maybe aerosol cans or hairspray or any like thing that can catch on fire, and make sure I throw them away in a responsible way instead of like littering them on the landscape, which gives it like a higher chance of catching on fire and then just spreading the wildfires. So I guess a small way is just taking responsibility over my actions.
That's good. Do you drive a lot, or do you mainly walk and bike around?
Um, I drive a lot to places that are far, but I do walk and bike. Well, no, I'm not gonna say that. I basically drive everywhere, but if it's in close proximity, I'll walk or bike.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's another thing you kind of do to help the environment. As long as it's within a walking distance or biking distance, you'll walk
yeah.
or bike.
If it's not like needed or if like I don't have, if it's like pretty close to me, I will walk or bike because I enjoy like walking and also biking. But if it's super far, like obviously I have to take a car.
Is our way of life in California maintainable in the long run?
Heck no. A big fat no.
Why is that?
Just how California and our state has been raised, I guess, of consumerism, just buying, 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 not knowing where it's actually going when you're getting rid of stuff, not reusing stuff, not fixing stuff, just throwing away. And where does that go? Oh, I don't know, maybe third world nations because we don't want to deal with our problems, so we just throw stuff away.
And where do you think that'll take California in the next 10 to 20 years?
Downhill.
I do think, fortunately, that it is going to be sustainable in the future because I think with all the technological developments with like electric cars, um, companies finding ways to reuse material because it would be cheaper to reuse material than have a lot wasted. I think within maybe 10 or 20 years, we'll start to see our pollution impact go drastically down.
The long run, I feel like no, like our environment is already getting trashed enough as it is with littering, but we're also getting like more industrialized by the years. And I feel like the carbon emission from gas and also like power plants and industries that have like large like like what are those called, the buildings, the large manufacturing buildings and stuff like
Uh,
that.
Factories?
Yeah, factories, yeah, like that. They give off like many gases, and like it contributes to the rise of climate change. So I don't think like our, like in California, I don't think it's going to be sustainable much longer.
So where do you think we'll be as a state in the next 10 or 20 years?
I think in the next few years, people are going to start switching to more like solar and electric, and like transportation. I already can tell like electric cars are getting already like very big with like companies like Tesla. So I think in the future that more people are going to start to switch over to electric and solar power. That's just my prediction for it.
And you think that'll help our environment?
Yeah, I think it'll help with less cars that are driving with gas and less like carbon emissions that are going off into the atmosphere.
Although at this moment there is peace and quiet in my town, and plant life flourishes, the distinct lack of concern and preparation for the fires makes me worried for what will come in the next few summers. Will we be able to stay safe and make the necessary preparations? Or will we be forced to evacuate in a retreating move from the looming fires? Time will tell. For now, All I can do is document my surroundings so that they will be remembered for years to come.